First meeting order of Struthers City Council dated Wednesday, January 29th, 2025, 7 p.m. Clerk, call roll.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Here.
Mr. Bayes?
Here.
Mr. Beagley?
Here.
Mr. Burnside?
Here.
Mr. Carcelli?
Here.
Mrs. Goman?
Here.
Ms. Pingley? Here. President Patrick?
Here, please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. At this time, I need a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the first regular meeting dated Wednesday, January 15th, 2024, accepted and prepared by the clerk.
Make a motion.
Ronnie makes a motion. Dell seconds that.
Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Carcelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pingley?
Yes.
Okay, communications, we have 3 pieces.
Yes. Number one, Struthers City Auditor's monthly statement of cash position, revenue reports with transfers in and out, and expense transaction ledger reports for the month of December 2024. Year-end report submitted by Christina S. Bowles, Struthers City Auditor. Number two, City of Struthers Treasurer's report for the month of December 2024, submitted by Mark T. Brenner, Struthers City Treasurer. And number three, Mayor's report dated Wednesday, January 29, 2025, submitted by Mayor Catherine Chacon Miller.
Okay, Councilor, you're reading the communication. Need a motion to receive and file. Dallas makes a motion.
Second.
Receive and file.
Lori seconds that.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Carcelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pingley?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor's report, Mayor Miller.
Thank you. The Struthers Firemen's Association Spaghetti Dinner is Saturday, March 1st from 3 to 7 at St. Nicholas Great Hall. Donations are $5 per dinner with children under 5 are free. Carryouts are available. If anybody's interested in donating an item for the basket raffle, please drop it off to my office at City Hall between Monday and Friday from 8 a.m. till 3. The Struthers Tax Office is now accepting filings in person and by mail and online for the 2024 tax year. A few things to know. If you've used the system last year, your PIN and password did not change. If you cannot remember your login info, you can reset your own password by using your email. If you've filed with the city before but have not used the online system, you can create your own online account. If you've never filed with the city, you will need to contact the tax office at 330-755-2181 extension 127 to set up your account. If you have a balance due, you can choose to finalize your return online and pay in person, by mail, or over the phone to avoid the 3.5% transaction fee charged on online payments. Taxes are due by April 15th, 2025. Struthers Fight Night. Burnside Boxing and Falloon's Struthers Fight Night is this Saturday, February 1st at the Struthers Fieldhouse. Doors open at 6 p.m. and the fight starts at 7. Tickets are available at Austin Town Pond or by calling 330-792-7001. The Gridiron is again partnering with Burnside Boxing and the February 1st fight night at the Fieldhouse. They will be raffling off a whiskey basket cooler at the fight show. Tickets are $10 per ticket. The winner will have a basket cooler delivered or can be picked up. Please contact Ken George or Dan Yema for tickets. They will also be sold at the fight. We would also like to congratulate 2 of our Struthers fire engineers, Scott Karras and Eric Inskeep, for completing and receiving their paramedic certification. We would also like to thank the Mahoning County Commissioners and the Fire Chiefs Association for working in conjunction with each other to provide the city funds to send them to school. Congrats, guys. All right.
Okay, any questions or comments for Mayor Miller? If none, we'll go to standing committees.
Fire and Police on February 5th at 6 o'clock.
Any others?
Finance and Legislation, February 5th, to follow Police and Fire.
Okay. Legislation. Anyone wishing to address council on legislation only at this time, you're welcome to do so by coming up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. That's legislation only at this time. If not, Megan, do your thing.
Okay, hold on a second. Number one, The ordinance authorizing the mayor and safety service director to enter into a contract with KO Consulting LLC for grant services for calendar year 2025 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, council, you heard the reading of the ordinance, need a motion to suspend the rules of council, place the ordinance up for passage. Bob makes a motion, Dell seconds that.
Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Questions or comments under suspension? Need a motion to pass as read?
Motion passes read. Second.
Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley? Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Okay, number two.
Number two, an ordinance establishing employee benefits for 2025 and authorizing auditor to transfer the employee and employer premium payments to the Healthcare Administration Internal Service Fund and transfer budgeted funds to pay any claims above cumulative funds retroactive to January 1st, 2025, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, council, you heard the reading of the ordinance, need a motion to suspend the rules of council, place the ordinance up for passage. Ronnie makes a motion, Ricky seconds that.
Second.
Ronnie, Ricky. Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Mrs. Pinkley?
Yes.
Questions or comments under suspension? Need a motion to pass as read?
Pass as read.
Second.
Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Number three is an ordinance.
Number three, an ordinance establishing the position, salary, and employment provisions of the Assistant Superintendent Wastewater Plant Department Head, a non-classified service appointed by the mayor, retroactive to January 1st, 2025, repealing any ordinance inconsistent herewith and declaring an emergency.
Okay, council, you heard the reading of the ordinance, need a motion to suspend the rules of council, place the ordinance up for passage. Ricky makes a
Make a
motion,
motion?
Dell seconds that.
Second.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Questions, comments under suspension? Need a motion to pass as read?
Motion passes read.
Second.
Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Okay, number four is an ordinance.
Number four, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Struthers to enter into a contract with Dynegy Energy Services East LLC as the electric supplier for the city of Struthers electric accounts and declaring an emergency.
Okay, council, you heard the reading of the ordinance, need a motion to suspend the rules of council, place the ordinance to passage.
I'll make a
Lori
motion.
makes a motion, Dell seconds that.
Second.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Questions, comments under suspension? Need a motion to pass as read?
Motion to pass is read.
Second.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Okay, number five is a resolution.
Number five, a resolution authorizing the auditor to request and receive the advanced distribution of real property tax collections from the Mahoney County Auditor for calendar year 2025 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, council, you heard the reading of the resolution, need a motion to suspend the rules of council, place the resolution up for passage. Ronnie makes a motion,
Second.
Megan seconds that.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Yes.
Questions, comments under suspension? Need a motion to pass as read?
Pass as read.
Second.
Yes. Mr. Ballack?
Yes.
Mr. Bayes?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley?
Yes.
Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Curselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pinkley?
Okay. Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business tonight? New business. The law director is absent, the auditor is absent. Bob, safety director, you have anything to give the council tonight?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Questions or comments for our safety director? Okay, if none at this time, Mr. Rhodes, it's your turn. Mr. Rhodes here, Regional External Affairs Director for Ohio Edison's here to come up and share some information and take any questions. Thanks, Troy, for coming.
Thank you very much. Good evening tonight, Council and Mayor. Troy Rhodes, I've been your External Affairs rep since 2018. I'm sort of your advocate out there for any questions or concerns you may have with Ohio Edison or First Energy. I'm here to be that advocate, also to be the voice of the company to Struthers in the event that there's any issues that First Energy or Ohio Edison may have or may be engaging in the city on certain situations like that. I think a couple things that are very important to talk about, and I know that when Megan gave me a call last week that you guys wanted to talk about streetlights. I have a little bit of information here, but before we get to that, 2024 was an ugly year when it comes to storms. Struthers was not excluded from those storms. A lot of wind damage, which means trees, which means power lines come down. The challenge with all of the storms is that last year, the one storm we had, I think it was in the July timeframe, at about 10 o'clock on a Saturday, we had about 1,000 people out. By 1:30, we had 100,000 out. At that time, you've got crews going all over the place, and we are trying to get to the 911 situations first and de-energize to make the area safe, then to come back and energize. I think one of the challenges that comes out of this is, why is it taking so long for my power to get turned on? And it's that restoration process and the priorities of work of how that goes. In my position, the territory that I handle is a portion of Portage County, all of Trumbull County, all of Mahoning County, all of Columbiana County, half of Stark County, a little bit of Carroll County, and anything south where our old generation plants are. So when a storm hits, the phone starts ringing. So who I deal with first is the EMA offices. And I work directly with the EMAs to keep them abreast of what's going on and let them know where we are going for crews and where our priorities are. Priorities are first hospitals, life safety, then public safety, fire, police, departments, 911 cells, all of those types of things that trickles down to there. That's what the priority is for us to get restoration in there. Then it's volume. That is whatever circuit. If there is 2,000 people on that on one circuit and 20 people on another circuit, we're taking care of the 2,000 before we get to the other 20. Now there are some times when there are 2,000 people on a circuit that are out, but there's 6 hours of work to be done on that circuit. So what we will do is that is still a priority, but if we can get other jobs done quicker than that until we can get crews out there, we're going to do that too. So, the proverbial guys standing around sitting on their hands is not the case. In a lot of these situations, we have to bring in outside services to help facilitate these storms. You see it everywhere. It's just not unique to Ohio Edison, Struthers, or Mahoning Valley. You see it in the major storms anywhere in the country. MOUs are set up with other utilities to bring in service or bring in linemen to go out there and perform that work. So we may have crews coming from our own company in CEI, Toledo Edison, or over from New Jersey coming over, or we may have contractors that we're hiring, JW Didado, or name another one, or Indiana Power, AEP, wherever they may be where that MOU is, we're bringing those crews in to work. They don't know the area that well, so them getting around, those types of things become a priority. Now, at certain times of the year, other things become a priority. Schools. When it's school is in session, all of a sudden they move up the line as far as getting those schools up and activated. Election day, when all of a sudden the United Methodist Church is all of a sudden a priority A, it's because that's where polling is being done that day. The next day they go back where they were on the past case. So that's sort of how that restoration process takes. Another question that comes up is when either the residents or you, elected officials, go out there onto the website and you see that there is it's called a global ETR. And today is what? Today is the 29th at 7 o'clock at night. Mike's power went out an hour and a half ago. He called in and the power would be restored on the 29th at 10 p.m. until all of a sudden at 8 o'clock at night, 100,000 people go out. Now all of a sudden they put what is called a global ETR in place. And what that global ETR means is that any person or any meter that was reported out between that window of time will be restored by whatever that said date is, which is sometimes, the last storm, it was like 3 days out. But that doesn't mean that that's when everybody will be restored. That's for that last person to get their power on that was in that window of time that said their power's out. So we will always continue to have crews out there, and that's where I work with the EMAs to say, hey, look, that global ETR may say February 3rd at noon, but we're right now in Struthers working on it, and they should have power on within the next 2 hours or 4 hours. So that's always a question. What I say to you is this, is that I am not calling you direct. You may get email notes, especially at the mayor or the safety services director level, that says, hey, look, right now there's 2,000 people out in the city of Struthers. We're working on it. I will keep you updated. That's not precluding any of you to give me a call and say, hey, what's going on? And I'm not, as I said, large community, large population. That's my primary talk. Because of that EMA and that 911 center, they reach out to all the life safety organizations, right? What I would say is that the police department or the fire department's here, but from a safety services director, one of the challenges that occurs during storms is when that pole goes over and those wires go across the road and you have to barricade the road. You have to block that off until we come out and de-energize that wire. The challenge is that call goes in either from Struthers Police Department to Ohio Edison or through the 911 dispatch that, hey, we got a call on Elm Street in Struthers that there's a line down across the road. We've barricaded it. The ETA for them to get out there, they probably won't even give you one during a dark sky night. But what happens is you leave because you got other things to work on. Ohio Edison goes down that street, moves the barricade, goes in, de-energizes it, comes back and puts the barricade up, and you're none the wiser. What I've said and what I've talked to all the EMAs from the counties that I just mentioned is once you get that notification ticket number, every 2 hours, call to make sure if that's been opened or closed so that you know that you can get back in there and open that street. It's important. And Bob, if you want to talk offline, we can do that. I'm here after, so we can go over that. But it's important. The challenge is we've got so many crews out there. They're calling back to our dispatch and they're closing the order, but they're not calling you back. Now, sometimes what you can do if you're calling in direct, you can say, text me, right? So when that order is closed, then you should get some kind of response back. That will help expedite, at least for you guys, to potentially get in there and get that street opened back up once we've de-energized our lines. Now, I'm talking electric. I'm not talking cable or fiber or any of those. That's a whole nother lane that you have to go down to deal with in that situation. But during a storm, that's what it is. It's all hands-on to get things done. And believe me when I tell you, if I'm not communicating with you, it's not that I'm ignoring you. The mayor and I have had conversations late at night on outages and stuff like that. So please, don't hesitate to give me a call, send me an email note, and I'll give you the information I can. It may not be the information you want, but I'll give you the information I have as far as what we're doing on that. So that's when that whole storm situation comes up. So streetlights. Streetlights are always an issue. And streetlights in the city of Struthers, you have roughly 780 streetlights. And that breaks down to roughly about 745, 743 ESIP lights. That's just your traditional street lights that are out there on the main roads. Then you have 25 Struthers lights, which are energy only. Those are probably post lights that you've got located somewhere that all we are doing is providing you the power, and it's up to you guys to maintain them. And then you have what we call outdoor area lights. It's the private light that's probably in front of the fire department. Showing that light there, that's what your lights are. What I did is I ran a report. In 2024, there was 146 street lights reported out in the city of Struthers. So that's roughly about 20%. It's not a bad number as far as how that is. Our requirement in there is once that street light's reported and the recipient or the reporter receives a work request number, the clock starts ticking. We have 3 to 5 days to respond to that light. To fix that light or determine that there's something more to that light that needs to be done. And then it's called a follow-up. Maybe the whole unit needs to be replaced, or maybe the troubleman was out there and he didn't have a 400 watt that needed to be replaced. So now he's got to go back, put it on there, now it's put onto the schedule to get that done. That's the easy part, is once it's reported. It's getting the lights reported, it's always the challenge, right? And I think I've talked to the city of Youngstown about this, I've talked to the larger cities. Most residents on their streets, they report those lights because it's in front of their house. They know when that light's off. What the challenge is your thoroughfares. It's your business district, where those lights that are out there, because when residents drive by, they assume somebody else is reporting that light. Well, so does the next person and the next person and the next person. So that's always the challenge in larger communities where you have those public setted streetlights, and that's where it comes up to the council or the city to come up with some kind of a process to report those lights. City of Alliance, they use their police department to identify them. Then they have their public works go out and mark them down. Then they have somebody from their street department to go out and mark them down. Then a clerk to report them and to send them in. Time. Sebring, it's all police department. Police department spots them, dispatch reports them, sends them off to that. And then in other areas, it's you guys. It's the city council members, it's them that are walking down the streets and
The
doing
police
that.
department seems like the easiest way because they're out at night,
Sure.
obviously,
Yeah.
driving through the city
Yeah.
at night.
Captain Leonard has been doing that for years. He'll go every couple months. I think he just did it about a month ago, but he comes up with a list. He drives every single street. So that's
Yeah,
something.
so some things to remember is that what's supposed to be on a pole is a pole number. Some of those poles may be a few years old, and that post number isn't on there. And in certain areas, in Youngstown, in Struthers, it's a vacant lot, and when you go to report that light, you give the closest address, which may be 3 houses down. What I recommend is to tie a ribbon around the pole and identify that when reporting that light. You know, pole at 123 Elm Street, or there's an actual ID on there, but put a ribbon around that, because probably 80% of the street lights that are repaired during the day. So that just helps that troubleman or that person going out there to know that that's the light we're talking about is that. So what I would also recommend is I went out and looked on your website, and you have, under the services department, you have what to report, but it's more Struthers generated. What I recommend is that you put a link out there to Ohio Edison for those residents themselves. And it may be out there, Mayor, I just didn't see it under some of the categories that I saw there. But to have that out there so that residents know directly to go onto the website, this is how you report a street light. There's a couple of different ways to report the street light. You can report it online, or you can call it in. The challenge with calling them in, and I'll be honest, if it's at a residence, they typically would say, because they're going to ask, what's your account number? Because that's how they track that, is off of an account number. Well, if I'm reporting it at a location, they get a little hinky about the fact that, well, why would I give you my account number if I'm reporting a light 4 streets over? All it is it's a tracking mechanism, is all it is to say, hey, we went out there, we couldn't find that there was a problem with that light. Thank you for calling, but we closed the account, or closed that order. So online is probably the easiest and most convenient way to do that, is through that. But I can send you information if you don't have it, to put it on the website so your residents know to go out there and report that. So that's what I have, tonight. Questions?
Yeah, I got a couple, Troy. We're paying, what was the city of Struthers paying for a street light? Do you have any information?
So, no. So you have not had to pay, so your street light cost is the same as it was in 2008. Now, the rider cost might be a little more,
Right.
but your flat fee, I'll send you that information. I can send you the actual tariff.
It's not a do or die,
Yeah.
but the problem, the issue I have with that is, we're paying for the street lights, but we're using our resources to go out and monitor the street lights. I mean, technically, that's your system,
Yeah, but, and
right?
so let me say it this way. We are maintaining those street lights based on the request of the city for those street lights.
But we're paying for that street light.
Yes, you are.
We're paying
Under-
for it.
yeah.
So the problem is if we're paying, that's your property, right?
Yes.
So we're paying you for to use your property, and we gotta come up with our resources to report it out. I think we gotta come up with a different mechanism. Why don't the company?
So the tariff is set up that it is not the responsibility of Ohio Edison to go out to look for lights that are out.
Really?
Really? Really. The tariff is set up that way.
How many people do you have to repair streetlights? I understand there was one guy and he had a stroke.
Yes, he did.
So where are we at with getting people to go out and repair them?
So
if we do?
I will tell you this, Mike, that 3 to 5 days, we're required to go out there to make sure. If that light has been reported, we have 3 to 5 days to go out there. Where that person comes from, it's either a troubleman or a crew is sent out there to that. So for Mr. Gomez, yeah, unfortunately,
Right,
he's
I-
not on right now, right? But that means somebody else is doing it. So right now, we've got trouble guys going out there doing that. More crews will be installed to do that, so.
Yeah, I don't know, sometimes I have a problem with that. So I hope, because I have some written down here that I got, and actually I got a bad pull too,
Okay.
where the cross arm supports are broke. The top of the pole split down the middle, and the cross arm slide right down the middle of the pole.
So after, we'll
I got
talk-
the numbers
Yeah,
there.
give those to me, and I'll have that
Okay.
looked at.
So I hope we can improve how we get this done, because like, I got 4 street lights down on Wetmore, and I know the bridge is getting replaced, but that's dark.
Yeah. Well, and again, I will echo the thing, and that is when you report those, whether it's you, the police department, whoever, and I could send you the report for 2024, and you will see the day it was reported and the day it was fixed.
I wouldn't mind seeing something so I can better educate myself,
Yeah.
so,
And I can send that to all of you, just so you have that document.
I something to see, because like he said, street lights are always an issue, and if we can have a better understanding.
Yeah, and with what the mayor says, if you have a consistent process, and again, in 2024, 20% of the lights that are in the city of Struthers were reported and repaired, right, in that timely manner. Now, is that, of those 146, were there really 200 lights out, and those 50 weren't reported? That's, that's the challenge, that's what needs to be determined in that situation. You're not the first person nor the last that's asked that same question. My friends in Warren are on me pretty hard about it, Warren City about that. But the tariff says that it's not. Now, that's not to say that we don't at times become proactive out there too, in situations where we may find an opportunity, or that troubleman is out there and the light was reported at 123 Elm, and while he was there, he noticed 3 more lights are out. He will then do those same 3 lights. But yeah, we're not sending crews out there to, now, times are changed. Back in the early 90s, when we had 10 light crews, that was done.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, we had two guys, now you got one.
Now we don't have any, right? Now we have to, other guys are doing that
Yeah.
resource.
I
That's a
sure
challenge.
wish they would get back to somewhat close to that way of operating.
Mike, you know behind the curtain. That's,
Oh, I know.
yeah, that's a challenge.
I know.
And your friends down the hill in Camel, he really knows behind the curtain, right? And trust me when I tell you this, Mayor Campbell sends me streetlights all the time. So, yes, any other?
Yeah, what determines and how do you determine when the telephone pole is getting weaker or when not? Because I mean, like the one in front of my house, it's like bent up.
So so the state of Ohio has inspectors that actually go out and test and do that. Now, they could have been at that pole 15 years ago.
Right, right.
If you have that kind of an issue, please send me the note and I'll have somebody go out and look at it.
Okay, I mean, I
Those
have,
things
I have,
happen.
I have
mean,
before.
What Mike's talking about, one of the things and tell me to leave whenever, right? So we had, I think it was a couple of years ago, we were having some issues in Struthers with a few residents that were upset because of some of the communications boxes that were in front of their house, and they wanted them relocated.
Over, yeah.
Yeah, those, you know what I mean? That's, buyer beware in those situations. But
Right.
those poles and things like that, guy wires and things, Mother Nature, when she has a storm, sometimes those things start to get to that point where they need to be replaced. So when the state sends these inspectors out to look at those things, it could be,
Right.
they're on a cycle too. But if you send me the information, I'll have somebody come out.
Well, I had done that years ago where actually a woodpecker and then there was a
Oh,
big
yeah.
hole like this and they went
Yeah.
and replaced it.
Yeah,
But, I mean, not just that, but they just, like the wood just starts falling off and peeling
Yeah.
off of these things and everything
Yeah.
else. So I think maybe we should put something in place for that too, because that's like a safety issue maybe in town. You know what I mean?
On that website, it talks about if you need to report a tree issue, if you need to report a pole issue,
We
or
could do that
anything
too
like
then.
that on
Okay.
that link, it's to be sent and it'll take you there. And you just brought up two pole conditions. Two pole conditions are everybody's friends. Two pole conditions is car meets pole, pole breaks, Ohio Edison comes out, replaces the pole, transfers their utilities to the new pole, the old pole stays there until we get the other utilities to get their utilities relocated to the new pole, so we can then get rid of that old pole. That's a
But
challenge.
a lot of pools are, I would say, leaned to the new one with nothing on it. What takes so long to get those out? Because we had an incident where there was a pole, and there was like jagged edges sticking up out of the ground. They took the pole, but they left that. I mean, somebody could have really fell on the sidewalk and impaled themselves there. Who would be responsible for
Yeah,
that?
so the internal process, what happens is so, my example there, so Ohio Edison goes out, sees that that pole is damaged and a new pole needs to be installed. When we install that new pole, regardless if it's an AT&T pole or a Ma Bell pole at the time, or an Ohio Edison pole, we replace that. As soon as we replace it, we go back in and then we send a notice. It's called SPANS, S-P-A-N-S. What that stands for, something, 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 right? But what it does is it's a system that is used by cable, phone, and the electric company, and whoever, so fiber. So pole, we'll call it pole 1. It's identified that there's been a replacement. That goes to those other companies, and it's now on their list to get out there to relocate those utilities to the new pole.
Who owns the
Sure,
poles?
we have a time criteria on that
Yeah.
you're putting forward onto them, or they could come in 6 months and we just have to live with it.
Yeah, I hate to use that word, live with it. What I can tell you is all we can do is tell them that they need to get those wires transferred to the new pole. Ohio Electric and phone fall under the PUCO. Cable and fiber do not. They don't, so there's no regulatory requirements for them to follow those things. And I'm not talking against my friends in the cable and the fiber, it's just the way it is. What I can provide the city is contact names.
I have those. And so we did have a problem with this occurring a couple years ago, and we got almost all, like 6 or 7 poles done in a short period of time. Through that process, I did acquire the telephone numbers for cable and the other utilities. So now when that happens, if it doesn't occur quickly, I have contact where I can contact them, get their wires transferred.
Now, are you alone responsible for taking those poles away?
So, not necessarily. So there are some times when AT&T, because if it was originally an AT&T pole, they have the opportunity to take ownership of that new pole, because what we're going to do is now take ownership and now charge them to have their utilities on that pole versus us being charged to have them on their pole. So there are times where AT&T says it's our pole, and it'll be our responsibility to remove the old pole. The challenge with removing those utilities is the fact that they're supposed to be done in a sequential order, right? So when electric's up first, then cable, then phone, then fiber. So the fiber person may want to relocate, they're out there. But all of a sudden they notice the phone isn't out there. So then they got to go home and wait till the phone comes out. So it's an orchestrated effort that needs to go on there. And as I've told them, it's ugly. It is
Well,
an
yeah,
ugly,
I know
ugly
that's a
process.
process that you have to go through for the wires, but my biggest concern was the leaning poles.
Yeah.
I think they're a safety hazard.
Yeah, so so I will tell you, and it's crazy.
Because it can take months before they come
Yeah,
and get
yeah.
a pole.
But I will also say that whether it's right or wrong, that pole may be leaning, but those wires that are holding that up,
No, these are poles without any wires on them.
yeah, so I need an example. If you have something
I
like this.
had one at the end of my street. The base of the pole was sitting in the middle of the sidewalk, no wires on it, leaning up against the new pole. And it was there for weeks
Yeah.
and weeks. Same thing for the one down on Center Street with the shard sticking out of the ground. That was there for weeks.
Yeah, and again,
And that's
Councilman, I have,
safety hazard.
yeah, I don't disagree.
But my concern is, if God forbid somebody did fall and get impaled by that, who would be responsible for that?
We'd probably go back to the owners of those poles.
Which could be you guys.
Yeah.
Or it could be
Yeah.
18.
Well, yeah, that's why I say, I don't want to say.
How do we know, on that address, that's how you'll figure out whose pole is, who owns that pole?
Yeah,
now?
so if I got your address and I find out that that's pole number 234, I can go into a system and find out is that an OE-owned pole or an AT&T
Got
pole.
it.
In some of those and like I said before, sometimes it doesn't matter if it's an AT&T pole at the time, if OE's put in their own new pole, right? What's more important is that we find out is what the utilities are that are on that old pole, right? Our challenge today, especially with all these communities getting new fiber lines run in, there are wires getting put up that nobody knows who they are because they may have not gone through the proper process to identify with us that they're on our pole, or we're so backlogged that they're putting it up and then coming to us and saying, hey, by the way, we got our wires now on your pole, and unfortunately, pole gets replaced and we know who 4 of the 5 wires are, and we can't figure out who the 5th one is. Now we've got to go out and hunt and find it. It's not an easy process, and it's something that the larger companies in the PUCO has to figure out as far as a smoother way to transition through this. The other challenge is, as I mentioned earlier, during a storm restoration, and a company comes in from name outside of it, and they're replacing and putting a new pole up, and they never do the paperwork for that because they forgot that step or didn't realize it was part of their step. So now that situation's out there, nobody knows about, right? I've had a couple of those up in Liberty that I've had to deal with that was installed during a storm, and they just didn't put them into the system. So if you have those kind of things, please bring them to my attention, and then at least I can say, hey, do we have an order on this? Because we've had some of those challenges in the past. So,
Very good.
anything else?
Troy, one more question.
Sure.
Used to be, if the power lines was going through the trees, the company would take the trees down. Is that still practice?
No, so from our forestry department, our tree beautification program is that wherever our wires are, that's what we're trimming around. So you're going to see the Y cut, the C cut, the V cut, the U cut. That's how we're going to do those, and it's only around our wires. We are not in the business to trim wires out of the way for the phone and the cable companies. I will tell you though that if you have an issue, and this is the other thing. So what I say to communities out there, look, if you see a limb on a wire, please give me a call and I'll send forestry out there to identify whether they're ours or not. If it's on the top, it's definitely ours. If it's below those top wires, they are not ours. That's just a cursory thing so you to know. So if any of your residents say, hey, I see some limbs on electric wires up there, because it's a generic phrase to say, right? Again,
You're always on top.
Let me
I'm
ask
always
you
on
this,
top.
Joe, what if it's growing through all the wires? You guys are at the top, so you would come and go below, or?
we're gonna go in our span, in our area. Again, call me.
Good.
I'll send that forestry guy out there. James Bramer, if you guys know him from the forestry department, he's a local guy. He'll go out there and tell me yes or no, whether it's ours or not, so.
Is there a local number for forestry, or we gotta go through you?
Yeah, you need to go through me or through that website you can put in there and you can go through there. Yeah. Okay?
Thank you.
It's good to see everybody.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks
Rhodes.
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, if I could real quick, the, link is on there, it's on the street department, and it says report, an outage.
On the street department?
On the street department website, and it links, if you click on there, it takes you to the form, and on the form is highlighted the links that take you straight to.
Oh,
So
it doesn't
report
go
a
that,
tree,
I didn't think
report
that.
We may want to make that a little bit more clear on
Yeah.
that.
I didn't drill that far down in.
So maybe we just need to bring it
Yeah, if
closer.
you want a great website, it's Austin House. They've got one where they've actually got Octopio, gas company, everything. It takes them right to those links. They have a whole page.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address council? You're welcome to do so by coming up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kevin Walsh. I'm the owner of 6810 14 State Street and 118 South Bridge. On a side note, in front of 4 State Street is a pole that has been there for at least a year and a half with nothing on it. There are 2 poles within 6 inches of each other, and one of the poles is completely empty, and one of the poles has all the stuff on it. So 4 State Street, and then in front of 14 State Street, there's one of the decorative lights, the black decorative ones, that there's probably, if you touch it, there's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of play.
So it wobbles.
It wobbles pretty substantially, so I don't know if that's you guys or if that's, but it's right in front of my front door of 14. It wobbles pretty good, and then, like I said, and then there's the actual, that pole in front of 4 State Street.
Okay.
So, I was in town, I thought I'd just stop by, obviously, 6810, 14 State, 118 South Bridge. I was in town, I thought I'd come in and say hello, introduce myself to a few people. There's been a lot of mis and disinformation over the last year, so I thought I would give you guys a chance, if you wanted to ask me any questions. That's all I have.
What kind of time frame are you going at 118 South Bridge?
So 118, we are actively doing, so the permit was, the plans are actually not 100% complete.
Okay.
The plans are not 100% complete. I have, my current permit is approved through framing, so none of the mechanicals are complete. They are all drawn. Anissa Meters, the architect, all the mechanicals are drawn. We're going through a review process. That building, just to give you a heads up, that building will 100% be to the current code, not to, there's no grandfathering on that building. I have to put a sprinkler system in. I have to, everything has to be brought up to the current requirements. So there's some questions on the mechanicals. The floor system will start to go in the next probably 30 days. But my current permit is only, with Mahoney County, is only approved through framing.
No, it's cold out there.
Oh, I know it's cold. I'm from Florida, what do you think? So yeah, so it will be starting, the floor system will be starting in the next 30 days. But it is, I'm hoping all the mechanical drawings, I mean, unfortunately, I don't have any control over that. I mean, I'm dealing with architects and engineers, and on the mechanicals, there's like 4 different people: the architect, the electrical engineer, the mechanical engineer, the plumbing engineer, the fire suppression people. So I'm hoping to have those complete within the next 30 to 40 days.
Kevin, what's your estimated time to kind of be up and running and open up?
So on State Street, I have on 6 State Street, 2-story building, I have both of those units rented. I have, those tenants are actively I'm hoping to have them in by May 1st. Okay. 14 State Street. The first floor is going to be a restaurant. The second floor is going to be, the person who owns that restaurant is going to have an apartment upstairs. It was originally 3 apartments. We're converting it to 1 apartment. The owner of the restaurant. So I am doing, all those buildings, the electrical was a disaster. So we're doing a service upgrade on all the buildings. All the buildings are being upgraded to 200 amp service, all being, the incoming services being upgraded. On 14 State Street, I'm responsible for the service upgrade, and then the individual who's doing the build out of the restaurant has her own permits and everything. So I'm hoping to release the downstairs to her by May 1st. I don't know how long it's going to take her to do her build out. It's a breakfast, coffee shop, restaurant. I don't think it'll take very long. The main infrastructure is there, so I don't think it'll take very long. The apartment, she'll be moving in by June 1st. Okay. 6 and 10 State Street, or 8 and 10 State Street. I have 2 people who are interested. The good news is those are the simplest. They have the least amount of infrastructure going into them. They will be available to rent, whether I have a tenant by then, but they will be available to rent by May 1st. 118, so I would say, realistically speaking, as soon as the weather turns good, turns better, the front of the building, we are restoring the terracotta. The product that goes on there is very temperature sensitive, extremely temperature sensitive, to restore that terracotta. After the terracotta is restored, the structure of it, they glaze it again. So it has that traditional look.
So the glazed block will stay.
So everything you see there right now is stained. Everything that's missing will be replaced with new terracotta block, and then a glaze, it's a synthetic glaze that will go over to give it the look of the original terracotta. That is being done by a company. I'm hoping they can start in late April. That glaze is very weather sensitive. It's got to be like over 60 degrees and for like 7 days before that can go on, or it won't cure correctly. That is happening. The back and the sides of 118 are getting painted. Those will get painted as soon as the weather. All the buildings are getting painted. None of the brick is going to be original. The brick is not in its condition that would be able to be saved. The minute the weather turns, I was just actually at the Valspar guys meeting today. The minute the weather turns acceptable, the outsides of those will all be painted. But to answer, so we talked about 6 through 14. On 118, I would love to have 118 open by Christmas. That would be.
Well, and honestly too, so I guess where we're standing right now is our concern, and everybody's concern thus far, is more the outside of the building.
Correct.
Than actually getting them rented, because that's what people see.
Yeah. And again, by May 1st, so all of State Street are getting new storefronts, okay, new glass storefronts. I really want to do the painting before those, because I don't really, well, there's 2 things that were holding that up, just so you know. One was the brick. That's why it's tented right now. That was paid for by the grant money. The grant money paid for that. So they literally, I went all summer trying to get them to do the work, and they literally chose 2 weeks ago, like the coldest week of the year.
So they're re-facading?
They're replacing, if you saw it before the plastic went up, you could see the black steel beam.
Yeah.
That brick had fallen off the building.
Okay.
So that was money so AO Masonry did that as part of the grant money. That's done. Again, they, of course, waited to 2 weeks ago when it was 30 degrees, 20 degrees outside. That is now done. Okay, so as soon as the weather is warm enough to paint, everything on State Street will immediately get painted. And the storefronts will be in by May 1st. So by May 1st, the outside of 6 through 14 will be completely painted, and all the new 6 upstairs is getting all new windows. All those plywood windows are being removed. They've been ordered. Supposed to be in the second week of March. As soon as they come in, they'll be going in. The storefronts will all be in by May 1st. Again, 118, that storefront, I mean, we covered the whole thing up to avoid any kind of safety issue. The upper windows are now done. They're going to be painted green, the original green they were. As soon as the weather warms up, they'll be painted green. Again, as soon as the weather warms up, the terracotta will be restored.
So you're saying once the weather gets warmer, a
This is
few
the-
months in, we're gonna see
Yeah.
a big change down
You're
there.
gonna see a dramatic change. This is the year that you're gonna see a dramatic change, okay? And quite honestly, I was, last year, unfortunately, while I'm extremely appreciative of the grant money, believe me, I'm thankful for all the grant money. The roofing bid for 6 through 10 was awarded on April 1st. The roofs went in October, by not even the guy that won the bid. We had to have it rebid. So, when I bought 6, that you could stand inside and look out the roof.
Right.
It's tough to start doing much before the roofs went on. Believe me, when that was awarded on April 1st, if you'd have said it was going to be October 15th, and unfortunately what happened was a guy from Columbus, who has no connection to the area, bid it remotely and won the bid. And then said, oh, sorry, I can't do it for that price. And it just started the whole thing over, and then we worked with locally Tima Roofing, and he found me another one, and we, because it was being paid for by the county, that money, funded through them, so they had to approve everything. So that took a note. So like I said, if you'd have told me in April it was going to be October 15th, I would have been like, so, so the roof went on, and then it got cold. The roof went on, and then it became cold outside. So, so.
All right, thanks for coming in.
Right.
Councilman
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank
filling this in.
Is there anyone else in the audience wishing to address council? Welcome to do so by coming up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. If not, just a reminder of our meetings next Wednesday, police and fire at 6, and finance to follow after that. Need a motion to adjourn? Ronnie makes a motion, Ricky seconds that.
Second.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Bays?
Yes.
Mr. Beagley? Mr. Burnside?
Yes.
Mr. Carselli?
Yes.
Mrs. Goman?
Yes.
Ms. Pingley?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
No, I think Ricky won, didn't he?